Good morning students, this is Latif sir. In this video, today I'll discuss about different methods of separation of a mixture. Okay, so today's topic is separation techniques. How to separate a mixture, how to separate the components of a mixture. And what is the importance of separation? Okay, we may need to separate the components of a mixture for a variety of reasons and some of these reasons are given here. First reason is to remove impurities that are harmful and undesirable. This is one reason. To remove impurities that are harmful and undesirable, separation is required. Second reason, to obtain a useful component from a mixture. To obtain a useful component from a mixture, separation is required. And the third reason is to obtain a pure sample of substance. Separation is required. Okay, so these are some reasons. Okay, for these reasons separation is important, and you have to remember that for separation of separation of components of a mixture, there are different methods are available. Okay, and different methods are required to separate the components of components of different mixture, and some of these methods are given here, like hand picking, sieving, sedimentation, decantation, sublimation, crystallization, and chromatography. Okay, so first type of separation is separation of solid mixture. Separating solid mixture, and the methods of separation of component of a solid mixture are given here, like hand picking, winnowing, sieving, dissolving, magnetic separation, and sublimation. These are some method of separation of a component method of separation of components of a solid mixture. First method is given sublimation. Sublimation, certain solid can sublime, that is, they can convert into vapor state on heating without forming the liquid state in between. Certain liquids certain solids are sublime, that is, they convert into vapor on heating without forming the liquid state in between, and this phenomena is known as sublimation. Okay, and using sublimation method can be used when one solid component of the mixture sublime and the others component are not. This is the basic principle of this method. Using sublimation method, you can separate the component of a solid mixture in which one component of the mixture is sublime and the others are not. Using this method, you can separate a mixture of ammonium chloride and sand. Because ammonium chloride can sublime, it is a sublime solid, and sand cannot. Okay. Next method is dissolving. Next method of separation of solid mixture, component of solid mixture. So next method is dissolving. This method is used when one of the solid component solid component of the mixture is soluble in a solvent and the others are insoluble in the same solvent. This is the basic principle of this method. Dissolving method is used when one of the solid component of the mixture is soluble in a solvent and the others are insoluble in the same solvent. Using this method, you can separate sand and salt, a mixture of sand and salt, because salt is water soluble and sand is insoluble in water. So using dissolving method, you can separate a mixture of sand and salt. Now see next type of separation, separating solid liquid mixture. Separating solid liquid mixture. And some types of separating solid liquid mixture, some methods are evaporation, distillation, crystallization, centrifugation, filtration, sedimentation, decantation. All these are some methods of separating solid liquid mixture, component of solid liquid mixture. So first method is evaporation. What is evaporation? You have already studied in lower class. Evaporation, the process of changing a substance from liquid state to gaseous state. The process of changing a substance from liquid state to its gaseous state at a temperature below its boiling point. At a temperature below its boiling point is called evaporation. And you know, heating increases the rate of evaporation. And the evaporation can be used to obtain the solid component from from a homogeneous mixture or solution of solid and liquid. In this method, on heating, liquid is evaporated completely, evaporated to dryness, leaving behind the solid substance. Using this method, you can separate sugar. You can separate sugar from sugar water solution. Okay. On heating, water will be evaporated and leaving behind sugar. So sugar can be separated from sugar solution by completely evaporating the water in the solution. Okay. So evaporation is a method of separation of component of a solid liquid mixture. Next method is distillation. What is distillation? Distillation, the method of separating a liquid from a soluble component by first converting the liquid into its vapor and then condensing the vapor back into the liquid is called distillation. In this method, in distillation method, the method of what is distillation? The method of separation of a liquid from a soluble component. Separation of a liquid from a soluble component by converting the liquid into its vapor, and then you have to again condense the vapor you have to condense the vapor to give the liquid, and this method is distillation. Okay. In evaporation, the liquid component of the mixture turns into vapor and is lost to the atmosphere, leaving behind the soluble solid component. However, in distillation, the liquid component is recovered. In distillation, you have to recover the liquid component, not the solid. Okay. And distillation method is performed in a special round bottom flask, which is called distillation flask. And distillation flask is used. This is one question: why distillation flask is used in distillation method? This is because distillation flask is used as it is more resistant to fracturing of glass in vacuum, as also it provides uniform heating. Okay, due to these two reasons, distillation flask is used in the in distillation process or distillation method. Okay, and a condenser is fitted to the flask. On heating the mixture in distillation flask, the liquid vaporizes and the solid component remain behind. Upon cooling, the vapor of the liquid component condense into the pure liquid. Next method is crystallization. Crystallization. What is a crystal? A crystal is a solid having a well-defined geometrical structure. So first you have to know the definition of crystal. What is a crystal? A crystal is a solid having a well-defined geometrical structure of certain compound. When a solution containing a soluble solid is allowed to evaporate by slowly heating, it becomes saturated. On cooling the saturated solution, the crystal of solute start forming slowly in the solution, and gradually these crystals grow in size and can be separated out from the remaining solution, which is called mother liquor. And this method of separation is used to obtain pure sugar. Crystallization method is used to obtain pure sugar and salt crystals from their respective solution in water. Next method is centrifugation. Centrifugation. What is centrifugation? Here it is described giving example. Okay, so detailed description of method is not required. Just see the principle of this method. The principle of centrifugal force. The principle of centrifugal force can be used to separate heavy solid particles from lighter particles of solution. From the light particles of a solution using centrifugation method. And the solution is placed in a tube in an apparatus called centrifuge, and the tube is rotated at very high speed, and the denser particle of the solution move away from the axis of rotation and get separated from the solvent. Centrifugation has been in use since a long time. Churning of milk to separate cream and butter from it is an example of centrifugation. And this method is also used in squeezing out water to dry clothes in a washing machine. And a high speed centrifugation is used. High speed centrifugation or higher speed centrifugation is used to separate the blood cell, and still higher speed of separating viruses from blood sample. These are some application of centrifugation method. Now see, next type of mixture is liquid mixture. Separation of liquid mixture. The methods are separating funnel, using separating funnel, or by fractional distillation. So first method of separation of liquid mixture, component of liquid mixture, is using separating funnel. Using separating funnel, you can separate a mixture of two immiscible liquids. Okay, immiscible liquids can be separated by separating funnel. A mixture of immiscible liquids, that is emulsion, can be separated using separating funnel. And the separating funnel of emulsion is based on the principle that higher liquid floats above the heavier, lighter liquid floats above the heavier liquid. This is the principle. The principle of separation in separating funnel is that the higher particle liquid, it is the lighter particles, lighter liquids floats above the heavier liquids. This is the principle. And what is separating funnel? It is a glass bulb with a tap called stopcock attached to its bottom, and stopcock is used to control the flow of liquid. So you can, using separating funnel, you can separate emulsion, components of emulsion. Okay, you can separate kerosene oil from water. Here, this is the method of separating funnel. Okay, separation of oil from water using separating funnel. Next method is fractional distillation. Fractional distillation. What is fractional distillation, and what is the use of fractional distillation? Using fractional distillation method, you can also separate a mixture of immiscible liquids. It is miscible liquid. Immiscible liquids can be separated by using separating funnel, and mixture of miscible liquid can be separated by fractional distillation. A mixture of miscible liquids, that is liquids that mixed with each other, can be separated by fractional distillation. And this method works on the principle this method works on the principle that different liquid have different boiling point. Based on this principle, fractional distillation works. Okay, and this is the representation of this method, fractional distillation, in laboratory. Using this method you can separate a mixture of different liquids, miscible liquids. Detailed description of this method is not required. Okay, and fractional distillation method, this method is used in oil refineries to separate crude oil into various useful substances such as petrol, diesel, kerosene and other fuels. And this method is also used to separate alcohol from water, because alcohol has lower boiling point than water. Now see combination methods for separation. A mixture contain more than two components. If a mixture contain more than two components, a combination method can be used to separate the components. Here one example is given. Okay, separation of sand, salt and grains. Okay, so you have to use combination methods to separate salt, sand and grain. First, grain is separated from the mixture by sieving. The second step, salt and sand mixed with water. The mixture is filtered to obtain sand as residue and salt in the solution. And salt is obtained from the salt solution by evaporating. So three type of method here used. One is sieving, another is dissolving in water, and the third one is evaporation. Okay, and separation of iron fillings, sand and iodine. Iron fillings are separated from sand and iodine by magnetic separation, because iron can attract magnet. Okay, or iron particles, iron fillings are attracted by magnets. So iron fillings are separated from sand and iodine by magnetic separation, and iodine is separated from sand by sublimation. Okay, so two method is used here. One is magnetic separation, another is sublimation. And chromatography, this is a modern technique of separation. Detailed description of chromatography is not required. Okay, just remember the principle and use. Okay, chromatography literally means color writing. Chromatography means color writing. It is a technique of separating a mixture of chemicals in gas or in liquid form. Chromatography has two phases. One is stationary phase, another is mobile phase. One is stationary phase, another is liquid mobile phase. Okay. So chromatography has a stationary phase and a mobile phase through which the mixture is separated, and it is based on the principle of selective adsorption. Selective adsorption. Adsorption means surface absorption. Absorption on surface is known as adsorption. Okay, so the method of chromatography is based on the principle of selective adsorption. Now see, one method of modern chromatography is paper chromatography. Paper chromatography is one type of chromatography procedure which works with a piece of specialized paper and a solvent, and the piece of paper is usually cellulose filter paper that act as stationary phase on which the separation of compounds occur, and the solvent is the mobile phase. And the mixture is dropped at the lower portion of the paper, and the paper is then kept in contact with solvent. The solvent moves upward through the paper due to capillary action, and dissolve the mixture. As the solvent moves along the paper, the constituent of the mixture also start moving. The constituent that have a strong affinity to the solvent will move faster than the constituent that have a strong affinity to the paper, and in this way the constituent gets separated based on the difference in rates at which each constituent moves along the paper. This is the method. Detailed description of the method is not required, and application you have to read. Use of paper chromatography, it is important. Okay, paper chromatography is used for following purposes: for identifying constituent in a mixture, for identifying constituent in a mixture, for the separation of amino acid, for determining organic compounds, for the separation of amino acid, for determining organic compounds and biochemicals, and for determining hormones and drugs in pharmaceutical industry. So these are very important use of chromatography, paper chromatography. Okay, thank you student, and this chapter is completed.